Can I have everybody stand up, please? Just for a second. Yeah? Now I know. That's okay. I know I have everybody's full attention. Let's take a deep breath. Everybody wide and awake? Yeah? Oh, please don't sit down, right? Okay, how many of you have been a part of an RFP, whether giving one or receiving one, at least one RFP in the last 30 days? Two RFPs. 7? 10? Okay. So I still see a lot of enthusiasm. Please take your seats. It's really nice to see that there is so much of enthusiasm around PR, and there are a lot of RFPs floating around. A lot of brands are waking up to the power of PR and looking at sharing RFPs with us. But let's now try and find out with this very brave panel that we've put together today to be able to understand whether it is causing anxiety or whether it's really creating a collaborative initiative amongst all of us, right? So let's start with Abhinavji, right? Abhinavji, tell us how RFPs have changed in the last 5 years.
Well, this problem has been there for quite some time. I think in the last 5 years, what has changed is people have started noticing that they are being shortchanged. And globally also, this problem is being addressed. Many forums, many trade bodies have come forward and they have addressed it through volunteer codes. So that is the change, and even in India, people are coming out and they are voicing it out. Even PRCI has come out with their own charter. So I think the mindset has changed. People are the sweat equity of agencies needs to be paid, and that has come out now.
Oh, that's very interesting. Though I haven't come across any RFP till date that's agreed to pay us for the sweat equity that we put in. We'll come to that a little later. Neha, over to you. Before you take on the PRCAI mantle, I'd like to ask you as an agency leader, what are the kind of RFPs that you have received and how have you seen them change in the last 5 years?
So I think, I have seen RFPs change both for the good as well as for the bad. I think if I talk about the good, we are beginning to get more structured briefs from clients. I think some of the clients who are fairly evolved in their comms journey are also realizing that, it's not just about giving a random brief, but they're also giving us case studies to solve, right? And when you give a case study to solve, you know that an agency is very focused on being able to give a very clear answer to you on what you should be doing from that perspective. So that is good. It's changed for the good. What hasn't changed for the good or has become worse is that a lot of the RFPs today are procurement led. Now, we're not in the business of commodities. We don't sell commodities, right? So we sell things which a lot of times are intangible. And therefore, if we are going to be bucketed in the same way, you possibly are looking at buying your commodities, then there's a challenge. Because when a person comes back and says, hey, you know what, I'm going to beat you down on the price. Well, the thing is, on what basis will you beat us down on the price? Or a procurement team ascertaining a certain value to a contract, right? I think all of these things have to be led by the comms people. And we've seen both sides. There are times when the comms person and the procurement people are together in a room, and those RFPs are very structured. But we've also seen situations where you only have procurement-led conversations, and those are very different, right? So I can go on this topic on what's changed, what hasn't changed, what needs to be better, but I think in a nutshell, those would be a few things.
Interesting. So we have a brand corporate communication person with us who can answer that possibly. How well do you think an RFP is structured if it's led by the CorpCom team or it's a combination of procurement and CorpCom?
I tell you, about 3 decades back, this problem has been there not only in PR, but in most of the functions that we have in corporates, whether it is procurement, marketing, sales, IT. I remember at FICCI about 1996-97, a very senior person who was the IT head, and he was building IT infrastructure in the organization. And he invited 7 or 8 of the agencies which were supposed to help Fiki become a good organization with great IT backbone. And this gentleman was bragging how he used that knowledge from what he fished out of their ideas. And he was bragging in the team leaders meeting that he did not pay for it, and yet he built on their ideas for free. That was the time when and it was laudable at that time. But things have changed quite a lot, and I think this is no more a zero-sum game. It is now we have to move from zero-sum to positive sum game, and that is very important how we look at it and how we build together. So coming to your question that it is, of course, partnership is there.
Right.
People talk about partnership, but talking and making it, just using it as a verbiage is not going to cut the eye. So one has to really get into partnership, and instead of calling for pitches from 10 or 15 or 20, Neha was just saying that 28 people were called in one of those recent ones. That is not the way. One has to reduce it to 6 or 7 at best, and then reduce it further to 3, and then
Right.
take it ahead, and then give a detailed RFP, and then really go into a strategic partnership hunt. Who, who is a fit, strategic fit for that particular objective that is there. That is the way I look at it, and many people are waking up to that. I'm sure there are a few organizations like Tata's, Amazon, and they're actually paying for that pitch fee, that is what is being called, and they're addressing this quite well.
Fantastic, fantastic. May there be more in your tribe. You know?
Pardon?
May there be more in your tribe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
जैसे आपने दुखती रग पे हाथ रख दिया है, right? This is, I think, a scenario which every agency would have, gone through at some point or the other, and we pretty much learn from the school of hard knocks. After which you start realizing, okay, this is a fish market situation. This is possibly where I want to actually pitch in and put in my sweat equity. That brings me to a very interesting question. I'm going to ask you to put on your PRCAI hat now. Right? There is a client consultancy charter, partnership collaboration charter that you have taken out, right? What is that about, and how will it help the industry understand that this is how an RFP needs to be put out?
Sure. So I think 2 years back, my role with PRCI was growth and standardization, and one of the things that I wanted to do is bring out a client agency charter when it comes to RFPs, right? I think the first thing that you need to know is how was this done, right? This was done by getting a group of CCOs in a room and understanding from them on what is it that they would like should be there in an RFP, or how would they like an RFP be conducted, and how would they like a relationship be with an agency, right?
Right.
And then we had a group of agency heads who got in a room to say, what would you like, right? And then there was a combined group which discussed all of those issues together to say, okay, if there has to be a charter, what must the charter have, right? So I think a few things. One, the charter is a very balanced charter, and it represents a view of an agency as much as it represents the view of a CCO, right? The other thing is that the charter very categorically calls out a few things. And I'm going to talk about an agency first, and then I'm going to get to the CCOs, to the second part of it. The first is that when you're looking for a partner, right, you can't call 28 agencies, because quite frankly, you don't have the time to talk to 28 agencies, right? Therefore, I'm sure every CCO today knows which are the agencies that they think can do justice to their mandate, right? And therefore, they have to be specific. And therefore, our charter calls out the fact that you must have about 5 agencies, and in the final round, you must have about 3 agencies, and you make a selection. The second thing that it brings out is the fact that we must know what we are after, right? What is the price that you're willing to pay for an RFP that you roll out? How does an agency know whether they should be giving you ideas which can cost you 5 crores? Or should they be bringing you ideas which can actually be low budget, low intensity ideas? And quite frankly, an agency is very happy to pitch either ways, but as long as they know what they're after, right? And then the third thing, which is equally critical, is there has to be a conclusion time of an RFP.
Right.
In the last few years, at least the last 2 years, we are seeing RFPs which have been going on for almost a year, right? And the fourth thing is an RFP has to be a genuinely intended RFP. It cannot be a procurement exercise. And if it is a procurement exercise, we don't have a problem. As long as it's called out to say this is a procurement exercise, but we need you to participate. And we will participate. What it does is it tells us how much effort does the team need to put into that.
Right.
Right? Now, if I look at the CCO's perspective, they have their own share of pain points with the agencies, right? One is they just feel that the briefs sometimes are not very well understood by the agency that's coming in for a pitch. So are they putting in the right kind of effort? Is there an intent to really want my business? So show me that you really want my business, right? I think the second thing is they all say that, when an agency comes in to pitch, they come with a team, which looks really good, right? But when you sign on the contract, you realize those are not the people that you're getting to work on the business. So therefore, an agency must commit to making sure that they are giving the people who went in for a pitch. And the third thing, which is also equally important, is to make sure that if you have people in the team leaving, you don't inform the client on the last day that this is this person's last day and thank you so much, right? You have to have a buy-in from the client to say, okay, this person's going to move on. I have a progression plan. I have a succession plan. I have all of those things in place, right? So I think those things are there. The point is that the charter was developed in a way that it gives more comfort for an RFP. And I think what is very heartening to hear is that today the industry, at least the agencies, are using that charter very effectively. And they're also getting a very positive response from the CCOs who come back and say, oh, I didn't know there's a charter in place. So fine.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the challenges that CCOs also face. Abhinavji, would you like to add something to that?
What Neha has said is quite interesting. I just wanted to say that there is an element of enforceability in all this. While we may have charters and voluntary codes all over the place, I'll cite an example of what Malaysia 4A does. These are not the same 4A like the American 4As. They have their own. They are quite different. It was established in 1971, 2004 it was. So what they do is, they have fixed a not pitch fee, but a reimbursement fee of 10,000 ringgit. 10,000 ringgit. So if you call for the finalists, like the 3 finalists are there,
right,
then they will be paid a reimbursement fee to defray their administrative costs, their whatever they have put in. So that is by law. It has to be done.
Nice.
So what I'm saying is that enforceability is very important. We may have this unless until there are a lot of COPCOM people who are not aware of this existence. So idea is to make them aware, and then how do you enforce it? That is the important part. In Malaysia, if there are 3 finalists, of course the non-winning teams are paid, so that is taken care of. Then if the person, the agency which has won the account, they will have to return that 10,000 because they are already on board. So it is fair to both sides.
Yeah.
So, and that 10,000, by the way, has a clause that it has to have a mandate of 2 lakh ringgit. So only 5% of it paid, so that it is not, you don't have to bleed through your nose to pay that. And 5% for the creative thing for the finalist is a justifiable thing. My point is, why can't we also adopt certain things, and that is enforced there by law, and the trade body is after their agencies, and no agency can go and take it on their own without divulging that facts and without addressing it. So in India, our trade bodies should also support the agencies, and agencies should be transparent enough to go to their trade body and say that, look, this is what we have done, and this. So it should not be desperate cases where there are other agencies which just undercut and then disrupt.
See, what happens today?
Challenge.
What happens today is that, to Abhinav's point, is that the day you have a rejection fee enforced in an RFP process, the whole system will streamline, right?
Okay, so these are all suppositions that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, but this
How
is
will you
there
enforce it?
This is there in the charter. This is
How
there
will
in
you
the charter.
enforce it?
Actually, you do have a group of COPCOM heads who were in the room and who said, we agree that an agency should be paid a rejection fee, right? So you do have a group that agrees that an agency should be paid a fair price if they're not winning the contract, right? How will this be enforced? It's a great question. This will only be enforced when you have a few who stand up and say, I stand for this, right? It's the same thing for agencies. Today, I know that there was a pitch that was called for, and there were 28 agencies that participated.
Wow.
And I know that there has also been a time when we have gone back to a client and said, you know what, our charter says 5 agencies, I am possibly the 6th or the 7th, and I'm not going to participate. So, there is, what does this mean? It means an opportunity loss as well, right? Because eventually you're out of the RFP process, there's a potential revenue loss in the mind of an agency and so on and so forth.
Right.
But despite that, if you have a few who stand up and say, this is what I stand by, you will start to see a change. Because out there in the world of CCOs, there are many CCOs who believe that they need to be fair to an agency from this perspective.
Okay, I'm coming back to this question, second last question. This is still on the basis voluntary, CCOs and agencies are volunteering to do this. Again, it is not enforceable. How are you going to ensure as an apex body, as a trade body, that this is enforceable for all of us for the collective good of the industry?
See, we are not an ASCII, which can enforce.
Why can't we
can
be an
only
ASCII?
No, we can't be, because we can give guidelines. We are an association, right? And as an association, we can only give guidelines. And therefore, we give guidelines, and we hope, we expect that people will follow the guidelines. So, to your point, we therefore need an apex body, maybe in the PR industry or in the comms industry, which is going to help us enforce. But right now, that enforcement does not exist.
Okay.
On
Anuji.
that count, I would like to just add that while enforcement can also be voluntary, but I'll just cite another case of Malaysia also, because there in Malaysia Airlines did something like this. They did some free fishing of the ideas and did not pay the client. The clients were registered with 4A and they complained. The secretariat, the CEO of 4A trade body, they went public. They issued a press release. They wrote to the client saying that this is not done. These guys are members, and you have to abide by their laws. So that small bit should be done at least in India by the PRCA.
And in fact, you were mentioning yesterday that this has also been done by the advertising industry in India with Vivo and Ogilvy as a
Vivo
case
and
study.
Ogilvy case was also.
So if that's possible and the law supports it, why is it that the PR industry is not waking up to it? Why is it that PR industry is not actually enforcing these
Only
rules?
waiting for voluntary thing may not work. Now time has come to put some teeth and some action. And that is my only submission.
Fantastic. So we will wait for...
well, I'd say it's really great to hear your point of view, because this is what we need. Actually, this is exactly what we need. And the thing is, when you're talking about an RFP process, a lot of the onus sits on the CCOs as opposed to sitting on the agencies. The only thing that an agency can do is get up and say that I am not going to participate in this RFP process because I just feel it is against the standardization, right? But at the end of the day, a large part of the movement has to happen from the CCOs for the RFP or the agency and client charter to be enforced the way we like it.
I agree there, and but that needs awareness. And unless and until somebody picks up the cudgel, like Ogilvy did against Vivo, and there was an interim order passed by the High Court of Mumbai, nothing will change. People will need to know that where is the empathy missing. So because I come from a very a real estate industry where very high ticket items are being sold, your life savings are gone to just buy one product. So here we cannot play around with trust. I personally in my life and in professionally, I personally follow the trust triangle, which has these 3 nodes. And you have to be authentic, you have to be empathetic, and you have to use common sense. The people who are missing that node of empathy, if you correct that, if I'm in your shoes and I spend hours and do come up with creative ideas and I don't get paid, I feel very shortchanged. So how do you gain trust amongst industry, amongst agencies as well as clients? You just follow the trust triangle. Be authentic, ask for authentic things, use common sense and be empathetic. If you just do these things, you immensely gain trust among all the partners. And as communicators and PR agencies, they're not different. They're all together. We are all communicators at the end of the day. And the industry standards should rise. That should be the common interest.
Absolutely. I think both parties are responsible for raising the collective standard of the industry. And I know, yes, it is a chicken and egg situation. Should the CCO start first or the agencies start first? But I'm hoping that this is the start of a dialogue that will actually eventually lead us to that particular
If agencies
platform.
insist that you give a RFP in a particular order, I don't think any right-minded CCO will refuse that. But this is backed by PRCAI, this is backed by PRCA, this is backed by ANA, by A4 US, A4 Malaysia. The whole world is talking about it. So you need to educate and make them aware. If you don't stand for your own rights, then CCOs will take you for a ride. So you just make them aware.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping that this will evolve into a dialogue and possibly lead us to this particular platform where I think we will have an enforceable agency out there, enforceable mandate out there. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, for taking the time out to speak to us on this subject. Yeah. Thank you.